All right, well, thanks everybody for this opportunity. I'm really honored to be first and also really, I think, to be representing Canadian space. And, it's broadening out to defense as well a little bit more these days. I know NordSpace is here on stage, but the issue covered amazing companies like the Canadian Space Mining Corporation, Reaction Dynamics, Wyvern, and so many others. And I think we're all united by this desire to turn Canada, at least in our domain of space, into a true spacefaring nation, one that's competitive, one that's respected, one that's highly capable, one that can retain talent. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what NordSpace is doing, because the surface area that we're covering is quite large. It's fairly technical, but I'll try to skip some of that stuff and jump right into some of the fun parts. But it starts by really putting into perspective where we're at as a nation. We've been falling behind for many decades now to a point where we're the only G7 nation that doesn't really have sovereign access to space. We're behind about 24 other countries that are really pushing on this frontier. And we have to do something about this. And this isn't just about doing something cool because space is the next frontier. This is a key domain for economics, for national security, sovereignty, job creation, and everything. A great example is Telesat. You may be familiar, kind of the Starlink competitor within Canada, looking to build a sovereign internet constellation. Well, they're not launching from Canada. They're spending $1.5 billion Canadian dollars roughly to launch from the United States. And that's not ideal. A lot of that is taxpayer dollars. Imagine if that was floating around within the Canadian economy. Even our closest neighbors and allies and friends, the United States, from a national security standpoint, have rejected Canadian payloads in the past, including our flagship RadarSat 2, costed Canadian taxpayers $200 million, but also was a real wake-up call for us that even our closest neighbors, when they see issues of national security, they may reject our own ability to reach space. We launched with the Russians back then. Can you imagine doing that today? So I believe we're facing an Avro-Arrow style moment here in Canada. And it's not one of these events where it's kind of one day you have this program and the other day you don't. It's this slow drip that's been going on for a long time. I graduated from the same hall in 2016 as an aerospace engineer at U of T, and most of my colleagues are no longer in Canada. These are the most talented, the hardest working, the most passionate people you'll ever meet. And we're losing talent, we're losing risk capital, we're losing potential, and I think we're losing hope. So I think one of the things that I'm most excited about at NordSpace is delivering a win for Canada, something that everyone in this room and across the country can own, a national victory that I think others like the Americans have done so well that have galvanized their people. And I think when we do that, it's going to change the entire game for us for generations. So at NordSpace, we have 3 key divisions. We define sovereign capabilities for space as building Canadian satellites, launching them on a Canadian rocket, and launching them from a Canadian spaceport. So, this is supposed to be ambitious, so we're doing all 3. I'll tell you a little bit about each of them. On the launch side, we're building essentially 3 classes of launch vehicles: Taiga, Tundra, and Titan. Taiga is actually launching this summer. It's going to be history-making, the first liquid rocket commercial launch in Canadian history from a Canadian spaceport. All this kind of, there's too many firsts to name, but it's really exciting. Tundra would be our workhorse orbital launch vehicle that's powered by our own 100% Canadian-made Hadfield first-stage engines and Garneau second-stage engines. Great to have Chris Hadfield support as well for our work. And I'll show you a little bit about how these engines work and how we test them and manufacture them. But a big part of this is manufacturing everything here in Canada. We have a completely Canadian supply chain. We do as much manufacturing in-house, and it's so important to build this kind of industrial capacity here. So before I show you a quick video, thanks. I'm glad you appreciate how important industrial capacity is. I'm also from the world of SAS. I spent 9 years doing that. Good stuff, but when you're building things with your hands, it's very different. This is an image of our final version of our Hadfield engine, and although these numbers may not make a lot of sense, it's so exciting to know that this compact engine is what we're actually developing here. So to make this more obvious, I'm going to play this quick video for you. Sure beats pushing code into GitHub, I'm telling you. But this is our facility where we manufacture this stuff. We have a facility, a 50-acre property where we've set up an entire engine test cell within a matter of months where we test these engines that you saw that we make in-house. It's awesome stuff and really kind of earth-shaking. On the spaceport side, so not only are we building the vehicles and the engines, we're also looking to launch them. And to maybe give you some idea, when you think of spaceport, people are like, oh, you're launching from like Canada, the North Pole, like it's too far north. We're actually launching from the same latitude as Seattle, basically. We're mimicking something like what you see at New Zealand. So, you see New Zealand, Scotland, Norway, Sweden, all these countries doing this kind of stuff. There's no reason we can't do the same thing, or in fact, a lot better. To give you an idea, we're operating right outside a town called St. Lawrence, a beautiful town on the southeast shore of the province of Newfoundland. I'm a Toronto guy, never saw the ocean basically for the first 20 years of my life, and then seeing something like this, it looked like heaven. And it was amazing. So we're building these two locations. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes from a regulatory and environmental standpoint, but we're navigating all of that. And this is the gorgeous location. I'd love to just show you a quick clip from my drone. So for a guy who never really went north to Steeles for the first 20 years of my life, that was like pretty jarring to see something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think we're going to have the most beautiful launch site in the entire world. I can't wait. It's amazing to be bringing this kind of energy to what's ordinarily like a fishing town, right? Like these people. So we organize open houses and we work with kids there and locals there who assist us with operations, and increasingly so. We do like these little rocket launches to kind of give them a taste of things, and it's just this really beautiful environment to see. It's not just Toronto being this tech hub, but extending it to the furthest reaches of this country. It's really rewarding. I'll quickly blaze through a couple of other things. We're building our first satellite right now. It's launching next June, hopefully for the first and last time on a non-NordSpace rocket. But we're testing a bunch of key technologies, including our satellite bus, thrusters, and an AI edge camera. We're also dual using as many of our technologies as possible, so specifically our Hadfield engines in a hypersonic test platform that we're looking to test next year. So exciting things there as well, and really trying to support Canada's growing investment and efforts in defense. So how did we get here? It's been about 2.5 years since the company was started. Obviously, it's been a long journey for me. Since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a part of something like this. It's private capital. Money moves everything. When I graduated from this hall, I wanted to start NordSpace. No one was going to give basically a kid a couple $1 million to build rockets. I did what most people might do and start a SaaS company. It worked. I spent the last almost 10 years doing that with the express intent to reinvest everything I could back into NordSpace and not have to fight for government funds and small bits of investment to move the needle. That's why we've been able to come out of the gate, hit the ground running, blasting through walls, moving super fast compared to the traditional pace of technology for Canada. But yeah, I left this hall and I was basically living in my car for 2 years, saving money and building Feedloop, which is my first company. In fact, somewhere here is our mentor, Mark Graham and Catherine Graham, who helped us get to that point. So I don't know if you can wave your hand. There they are. They're hiding over there, but they're just the nicest people. So launch is within reach for Canada. The last two things I'll say, people think, oh, this is going to be like a billions of dollars, effort. Canada doesn't do this kind of stuff. Maybe not this room, but honestly, like you look at even a company like SpaceX or Rocket Lab, they did it for under $100 million 2 decades, a decade ago. We think we could do it for a lot less than that. And this is a whole new capability, tons of jobs, and so much inspiration and growth that's going to come from it. And of course, the immense profitability. I'm usually pretty embarrassed to throw this slide in, but whatever. This is me where it kind of got started. Like you might read in the book, kid from Jane and Finch. This is my middle school, participated in Lego robotics at the Ontario Science Center. Really missed that place. But it's so important, I think, to keep talent that's kind of born, raised here in Canada, and do everything we can to keep them here. So we do a lot of work at NordSpace to support young people and make sure that they know that Canada is a great place to build. So yeah, the last thing I want to show is just a very small video showing the team. You kind of heard from me, but really, I kind of just fill in forms and write emails. It's our team that does all the hard work. So here's just a quick snapshot of what it looks like testing in the winter. I can't say enough about how much effort our teams put in the winters, freezing cold for weeks, fighting off moose and bears, like who would imagine? In the summers, it's like 35 degrees and there's black flies, literally, you don't want to know. It's really bad, but we persevere. So anyway, I always ask this question, will Canada choose to be participants or leaders in space? But everywhere, we choose to be leaders. I know everyone here does as well. Let's, really push this message and make Canada lead in space and everywhere else. Thank you.